I'm Judd Myers.
I'm Scott Tipton.
Welcome to Blastoff. Welcome back, everybody, to the Blastoff podcast. This is another home show coming to you from headquarters in our store in North Hollywood, California. This week, you got Retails and Comics 101. Everything you love about comics. In Retails, you've got a little story about a little girl who is the love of my life. It's about my daughter and about the four walls and the floor and the ceiling that holds our heart. It's a family where we are in our store, and you guys are all part of our family, but it's kind of great to have the opportunity to bring a little bit of my family into your ears. Hey, Scott, what's happening in Comics 101?
Comics 101 this week, we're going to continue our series of origin stories, and we're going to be looking at Thor from Marvel Comics. And I got to be honest, Thor was a character I never really clicked into as a kid, except for the Mego figure, of course. I love that Mego Thor. That Mego Thor was one of the best looking action figures. Had the full cape, the helmet, the rooted hair. It looks serious. But as far as the comics, I don't know. In the 70s especially, Thor was always like your deadbeat roommate in the Avengers. He was never there. And there was, oh, if only Thor was here. And as a kid, oh, why isn't he there? It's the Avengers. Get him to the meetings. And occasionally you would even have like villains saying, oh, if only Thor were here for me to crush. So I always felt like Thor was kind of an also-ran as a kid. I read a few of the contemporary comics in the 70s, and I liked them okay. There was some where he was out in space on a big Viking boat with that robot dude, the Recorder. I love the Recorder.
I love the Recorder, too.
Observation. I love the Recorder. But as a character, it's funny. I never clicked with Thor as a character until the films. Even the Walt Simonson Thor comics, which are great. I love those. Simonson's entire Thor run is masterful, but they're masterful in a kind of mythological way where they're great mythic storytelling. I don't like Thor. I don't dislike him. I don't connect with him. It wasn't until the films that I connect with Thor now.
I don't think Walt really connected with him either. I mean, look, he turned him into a frog. Like, come on. And then he gave the hammer to some like alien space guy.
Hey, I connected more with Beta Ray Bill than I did with Thor. Beta Ray Bill was awesome. They just kind of like cracked the formula with the films to make Thor approachable and real in a way that I didn't think the comics did before that. And I forget which op-ed piece I read. Someone made the point that if you want Superman movies now, you have to watch Thor movies. Because he's kind of taken that role in the popular culture. He's the outsider from another planet who comes to Earth to help, not because he's angry or for vengeance, but because he likes us and he thinks we're worth fighting for. And if you look back now, I can kind of see the traces of that in the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff, which I couldn't as a kid because I think I came to it too late. So when going back and exploring all these old Thor comics has been very interesting. I think you'll enjoy it.
So he's like Superman, but he likes to drink.
He likes to drink and he's a little less murdery than he is in the movies.
Oh, fantastic. Let's get to it. The history of comic books, the characters you love, and the people who created them. This is Scott Tipton's Comics 101.
The year was 1962, and Marvel editor Stan Lee was feeling the pressure. Stan had come out of the gate strong. His new comics had been met with unexpected success at the newsstands. Fantastic Four and The Amazing Spider-Man were not only selling better than anything the company had put out in years, but Stan was achieving critical success unlike anything he'd ever experienced. The fan mail was pouring in excess of 1,000 letters a week, and Stan Lee and Marvel Comics were suddenly the darling of the press, with Stan and other Marvel folks doing all kinds of print and radio interviews about this new generation of comic book heroes. The problem was, now what? As Stan recounted in his book Origins of Marvel Comics. But what was left to invent? Who could be stronger than the Hulk? Who could be smarter than Mr. Fantastic? We already had a kid who could fly, one who could walk on walls and ceilings, and a female who could fade away whenever danger threatened or whenever the artist ran out of ink. As you can see, we were hooked on superlatives at the time, always trying to come up with characters that were bigger, better, stronger. However, we had painted ourselves into a corner. The only one who could top the heroes we already had would be Super God, but I didn't think the world was quite ready for that concept just yet. So it was back to the old drawing board. Stan was racking his brain for new heroes, but he kept coming back to the notion of Super God. He knew there was no way to feature God in a comic without offending, well, practically everybody. In the midst of all this, Stan remembered a radio interview he had done in which the host had referred to the new Marvel stories as 20th century mythology, comparing them to Greek and Norse mythology of old. With that, Stan had his solution. Sure, there was no way they could publish a comic book featuring God as a superhero, but a comic book featuring a god as a superhero? No problem. Soon enough, Stan had settled on a mythological deity to receive the Marvel treatment, and the mighty Thor was on his way. Feeling that he was handling too much of the company's writing himself, Stan turned over the Thor concept to his brother Larry Lieber, who had been working on the company's line of monster comics. For the art, Stan once again turned to Jack Kirby to bring his rough concept to life. Lee, Lieber, and Kirby's vision of the Norse God of Thunder made its debut in Journey into Mystery number 83 in August of 1962 in The Stone Men from Saturn. In the premiere story, we're introduced to Dr. Donald Blake, a crippled physician vacationing on the coast of Norway. Coincidentally, also visiting the lovely Norwegian coast are the Stone Men from Saturn, and they're not there for the scenery. A scouting force for a planned invasion of Earth, the Stone Chaps amuse themselves by uprooting and disintegrating trees. A little known fact: Saturnian stone men apparently hate trees. The stone men are spotted by a local fisherman, whose warnings fall on mostly deaf ears, except for our good Dr. Blake, who decides to go investigate the stone men for himself. Blake stumbles upon the aliens, but is quickly spotted, and the stone men are soon in hot pursuit. Running for his life, Blake stumbles and drops his cane, which slows him down even more. Seeking refuge in a cave, Blake finds the only way out blocked by an enormous boulder. Leaning against the cave wall, he accidentally activates a hidden trigger, revealing a secret chamber. Inside is only a gnarled wooden stick, the comic claims, like an ancient cane. When the stick turns out to be of little use in moving the boulder, Blake strikes the stick against the boulder in frustration. And with a flash of lightning, both Blake and the stick are transformed. To his disbelief, Blake is now the mighty Thor, Norse god of thunder. Looking down at the wooden stick, he sees that it too has changed, becoming a warhammer bearing a peculiar inscription: "Whosoever holds the hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." The boulder that had seemed immovable mere moments before is now lifted with ease, and Thor begins to experiment with his new weapon and physical form. Thor discovers that he must continuously hold the hammer to remain Thor. After 60 seconds without contact, Thor will change back into Blake, although the hammer will remain. Blake also learns that by striking the hammer against the ground, both he and the hammer return to their original shapes. The hammer also has the ability to control the weather, and it always returns to his hand after it's thrown. Best of all, Thor learns that by throwing the hammer and then immediately catching the leather thong at the end of the handle, he's able to hurtle through the air like a missile. Thor's lesson in hammer handling comes none too soon, because before long the full Saturnian invasion force has arrived in Norway. Thor quickly dispatches the Stone Men's ground troops and handily dismantles the invaders' Mechano monster as well. The Stone Men are freaked and split for Saturn pronto, not knowing how many more like Thor may be awaiting on Earth. After the first 14 issues of Thor's run in Journey into Mystery, the book was placed in the hands of Stan and Jack. Once Stan took over the scripting, a distinct difference was seen in the dialogue. Thor, and later his fellow Asgardians as well, began to speak in a sort of archaic, pseudo-Shakespearean Old English, which doesn't make a lot of sense considering he was Norwegian, but succeeded in giving the character a sort of regal nobility that served the character well in setting him apart from the rest of Marvel's costume types. Early on, Thor focused more on earthbound villains and threats, but the series really kicked into gear when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby began to center the series around Thor's Asgardian heritage. It is later revealed that Don Blake had never truly existed, that Thor's human identity had all been a lesson in humility from Thor's father, Odin, mightiest of the Norse gods and ruler of Asgard. Despite this, Thor continues to live a double life as both Thor and Dr. Blake, partly because of the strong bond he has forged with Midgard, that's Earth for you non-Asgardian types, and partly because of his love for Blake's nurse, Jane Foster. Thor also finds new allies in Balder the Brave, Thor's longtime loyal right-hand man, and in the beautiful but deadly warrior Sif, Thor's intended bride since childhood. The central conflict of the series involves Thor and his half-brother Loki, the god of mischief. Bitterly jealous of Thor and longing for Odin's throne, Loki unleashes evil scheme after evil scheme in efforts to either destroy Thor or discredit him in the eyes of Odin the All-Father. Some of Loki's plots even result in the creation of new foes for Thor to deal with, bruisers such as the Absorbing Man and the Wrecker, who reappear many times over the years. Besides the Lee Kirby issues, the most acclaimed run on Thor was created by writer-artist Walt Simonson during the mid-1980s. Lasting for 30 issues, Simonson brought a new vitality to the series that I hadn't seen in years, and his classic, illustrative art style returned Thor to a scope and grandeur that had been missing since the days of Jack Kirby. As for the writing, Simonson brought two sorely needed aspects to the series: a return to the strong emphasis on Norse mythology and a genuine sense that anything could happen, from aliens stealing Thor's hammer to Thor being transformed into a 6-foot-tall frog. There have been several notable Thor runs since Simonson's, but none that measures up to his ambitious, epic storytelling. Highly recommended. Compared to folks like Batman or Spider-Man, Thor has taken a little more time to get some traction in the world of mass media, and his first two outings at bat certainly didn't help. In the 1960s, Thor was included in the barely animated cartoons from the Grant Ray Lawrence Studios. You remember, the ones with these atrocious theme songs.
Cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, where the booming heavens roar. You'll behold in breathless wonder the god of thunder, mighty Thor.
Although the animation was practically non-existent, at least the stories were pretty good, since the Lee Kirby comics were taken pretty much panel for panel to create the cartoons. You can find these on home video or YouTube if you look hard enough. In the 1980s, Thor also made a guest appearance in The Return of the Incredible Hulk, one of two fairly stinky Hulk TV movies starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. The script played pretty fast and loose with the Thor canon, introducing Don Blake as a former colleague of Bixby's David Banner, who had discovered the Hammer of Thor, which allowed him to mystically summon Thor himself, who was more of a hapless Viking goofball with a penchant for brawling and boozing than any sort of noble thunder god. There's really not much here worth seeing, although those of you bent on punishing yourself can probably find this loser online as well. Thor finally made the big time in 2011 with his feature film debut directed by Kenneth Branagh, followed by his appearances in two Avengers films from Marvel Studios, and an underrated sequel, The Dark World, with one more solo Thor outing to come in November's Thor Ragnarok. Much as with Iron Man and Captain America, the film's secret weapon was its star, Chris Hemsworth, a mostly unknown actor at the time of the film's debut, who imbued the character with a warmth and humor I never much felt from the Thor comics. To quote columnist Steve Murray from his National Post column entitled, "Thor is the New Superman," Thor is fun, the way Superman should be. His cape is a bright, hopeful red, and you want to hang out with him. The Superman in Man of Steel is a guy you want to keep your distance from, more coldly alien than the Asgardian who had just arrived here. They're both immigrants to Earth, But even though the Man of Steel Superman was raised here, Thor feels more connected to humans in his movies, more their champion, more their Superman. I gotta agree. Bring on Thor Ragnarok. We're ready for it. Not all great stories happen in the pages of a comic book. Some of them happen in the store. Welcome to Judd Meyer's Retails.
Daddy, can I press the buttons? My daughter Hannah stood on a chair at my counter, reaching out for the cash register. She loved it when the cash register popped open. Surprised her every time. She'd spent many hours behind my counter. She was only a year old when we opened our doors, and I carried her around on my hip while I served customers. At 7 years old, she got to be a good deal taller than my waist and had free reign of the place. She knew the best hiding spots, she knew where things went, and remarkably, she knew my customers. Guess what? They knew her, too. I took great pride in the fact that she got to tell her classmates that my dad sells comic books. It made her the coolest kid in school. I'd fill the school library with books and hang free comic book day posters in the halls every year. I was a rock star to the little boys. I'd say it made them respect her more than the other little girls, but in elementary school, even comic book cool has its limits. When she was tiny, she'd crawl all over the place, staring at herself in the display cases. "Honey, don't lick the glass. It's not good for you," I'd say, wiping the displays with Windex for the 100th time. "Ah," she'd reply, tongue hanging out. Back then, my dog came to work with me. She didn't have a backyard, so I made a little area for her in the back room. I worked long hours, as most new retailers do, and I didn't have the heart to keep her locked up away from me all day. Not to mention the mess I'd come home to. It wasn't unheard of for customers to come to the door and find a handwritten sign in the window. "Back in 5 minutes, taking Faith for a quick walk. When she's got to go, she's got to go." Everyone understood, of course. It was a one-man and one-dog operation back then, and my customers are the kind of folks who don't lack patience. Hannah grew up in the kids section of the store and knew what a spinner rack was. More and more kids don't these days, and that's just a crying shame. I'm forever regaling my poor customers with the story of her spinning the display, grabbing a copy of the latest Betty and Veronica Digest, and rushing up to the counter with it. "Daddy, can we buy this?" she pleaded. "Please." "Honey, we kind of already did," I replied. Sometimes she came with me to work. She had her own chair with a cup holder. She had an endless supply of colored markers, Sharpies, and paper, a little fridge in the back for juice and snacks, and of course, much-needed paper clips and rubber bands for those special art projects. I often found her hiding upstairs in the storage area, lying on her back and lost in her imagination, hidden among the toys and boxes. Some kids have tree houses. Hannah had a comic book store attic. On occasion, she was known to lie at the top of the stairs, crushing packing peanuts and sending them raining down onto the heads of my unsuspecting employees. "It's snowing!" she'd cry out. "Boogity, boogity!" Like many proud parents, I got to display her unique art pieces in my back room. Super dogs and crazy pictures of Mr. Toast and Shaky Bacon. One day she made a wonderful drawing of the Flash's pet, and I was thrilled to put it in the back room. When she came in and saw it there, she asked, "Why isn't it out front? Why are you keeping it hidden in the back?" So I brought it out and put it behind the register. After seeing it there, she said, "Everyone else's art is framed and on the wall. Why can't mine be?" "Good point," I said. So I framed the picture and hung it on the shop floor alongside the original Alex Ross painting and the John Cassaday pages. I asked her what we should do if someone asked to buy it. She replied, "Depends on how much they want to buy it for." I glowed with pride. Truly. Together, we watched our customers' children grow over the years. She knew some of the regulars who have kids, and they had play dates while their parents chatted and shopped the store. Rarely a day goes by that I don't have a "how's the kids?" conversation with one of my regulars. While our children are growing up around us, we're growing as parents, and it's fun sharing the stories while we talk all things comic book. Jeremy, one of my longtime subscribers, just became a father. Unfortunately, he also just lost his job. While he and his wife are ecstatic, they're scared and uncertain. But they come in every other week together, religiously. Comic book store, nail salon, supermarket. Him, her, them. Jeremy's cut back on his spending. A good thing, to be sure, but he's held on to his store visits and his periodical purchasing. He's moved to trade paperbacks for some titles and doesn't have a problem waiting for some stories, just not all. I recently asked his wife how he was holding up and how things were going with the job hunt. She was mostly positive and added, "Thank God he has this. He cut out everything else, but this is his special treat, and I'd never let him take it away from himself. Plus, it gives us time to be out together and not be cooped up at home. Every little thing counts." Why am I telling all of this to you, faithful listener? Well, I know there's lots of debate, here and countless other places, about brick-and-mortar comic book stores versus online discount services. Opinions are varied and heated, with good points made for both options. Times are tight. We look for ways to cut corners. We look for ways to be smart and spend less. Here's what we don't look for: reasons to stay home and worry. We go to the movies to laugh and be entertained. We exercise to keep our minds sharp. We meet friends for drinks and accept invitations to parties. Sure, we spend more time online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But these sites we visit and the messages we post revolve around one thing: communication. It's not a time for us to bury our heads in the sand. It's a time to talk, to socialize. Certainly, saving money is paramount in the economic climate we might find ourselves in. It's unprecedented and filled with mystery. It's my position that in times of great trouble, like the ones we're facing right now, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to fall back on the people and the places we love and to support our community in the process. Most people don't come to my store to just pick up their books and leave. They come for a shopping experience. They come to see the colors and listen to the music and share their opinions. Many drive from far away and brave the traffic every week because it's one of the rare things they do that isn't jaded and frightening. We have many things in our lives that remind us we need to be responsible adults, but few that remind us to have the spirit of a child. I'm no fool. I know you can hop online and get things a heck of a lot cheaper on Amazon than you can in my retail store. We discount what we can and make up for it with customer service, ambiance, and a deep sense of family. We're a small store, not a giant warehouse. I work as hard as I can to pay my mortgage and cut corners. I run a tight ship so we don't find ourselves sinking. And I rely on my customers to shop with me and not lose themselves in the price wars of the internet conglomerates. Frankly, they can't give you what I can. They can't spend time with you and hear about the joys and troubles of your day. They can't have a signing where you have to show up in person to hang out with your favorite creator. They can't invite you to Free Comic Book Day, where families and friends meet in person and do the thing we need so very much to do right now: celebrate. And did I mention that there are stacks of comic books in our store that day that are free? Discount doesn't get much deeper than that. The fact is, I could be making a hell of a lot more money doing something else with my life. Even in this uncertain time we're trapped in, I'm qualified for quite a few well-paid professions. But I choose to do what I love. Even more important is the fact that my child learns that lesson from me every day. Do what you love. It makes you feel better and enjoy your life, especially when times are their darkest. This applies to both work and play, which is exactly what we all do in your local comic book retail store. We play. Like everyone else, I need to earn a living. I have books that need to be sold. And no matter what the word on the street may be, the weekly periodicals are still the bread on which the butter sits. Yes, trade paperbacks and hardcovers are taking the industry by storm, and my store reflects that change, embraces it. But the never-ending soap opera of the comic book periodical has made its way through wars, witch hunts, and economic devastation. Are we truly to believe the tactile concept of holding paper in our hands and being thrilled by its content will suddenly disappear because of a technological revolution? I don't think so. And every day I come to work, I unlock the door, turn on the lights, and prepare my store for you. I clean the counters and turn on the music and tidy up the joint, so when you come in, you feel safe. Safe from the raging world outside. Safe from the pounding images on your computer. Safe from the stress crawling through your mind. Safe. It doesn't take that much effort to escape into the digital world of your computer. Heck, you're listening right now, probably through your computer or your phone, trying to decide if you care one bit for what I have to say. Coming into a comic book store requires time. It requires effort. It might even require a few extra dollars. But would you rather sit at home and hide away, or would you rather come to the party? My shop is filled with customers on a Wednesday. People are buzzing about Old Man Logan, quizzing one another about what happened to Batman and trying to guess what the next event will be. A little girl grabs for a copy of Amulet. A little boy sits at the kids' table reading Bone. A businessman inspects that vintage copy of Silver Surfer he's been coveting forever. 2 students from the local university are in a heated debate about Garth Ennis. Someone's asking me what the song is that's playing on Spotify while he flips through an Alfred Bester paperback. 2 of my subscribers are flirting with one another in the indie section. They've been at it for weeks, but can't seem to pluck up the courage to ask each other out. I close my eyes and breathe it all in. There's an energy in this small box that can't be found anywhere else. Unless, of course, you're in your own local comic book store, in your own neighborhood, in your own state, in your own country. You can't get this feeling from a screen. You can't get this feeling typing it at a keyboard. You've got to show up. You've got to be there to be a part of the experience. My 15-year-old, beautiful young adult daughter watches me close my eyes and doesn't seem a bit confused by what I'm doing. She's seen me do it many times before. Or maybe she just understands what it is to be lost in the wonder of life with your friends and family close by. "Hey, Dad, can this be my first summer job?" she asked me. I open my arms to everyone around me. "This is all yours if you want it, honey. All of it." "I do," she says, her smile adding even more light to the room. "I want people to come into our store forever and ever and always be happy. An invitation has been offered you. Come into our stores, everyone. Don't sit at home. You'll find us all there, waiting to welcome you, to give you an experience you so desperately need after a long, hard week. An experience you can't get at home on your computer or waiting by your mailbox. And if you come into my store, you might just find a beautiful girl behind the counter, growing, 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 wanting you to come into our stores forever, and for you to always, always be happy." The Blastoff podcast is produced by the Colonel, Jeff Fox, Scott Tipton, and me. Original music is composed and performed by Derek Anthony Gray. You can find more of his musical compositions on his website, DerekAnthonyGray.com.
For more information about anything you've heard us talk about today, check us out online at blastoffcomics.com. We have an active Facebook presence, so check us out over there on Facebook. And you can reach us on Twitter at BlastoffComics or on Instagram.
Or you can come by our retail location in North Hollywood in the heart of the Arts District, 5118 Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood, just 2 blocks south of Magnolia. See you soon.